Welcome back, everybody, to Handicap Hustle. I'm Jim Bressel, your host, and we have with us direct from Las Vegas, as you can see in the background. We've got Paris in the background there. Paris. Richard Frazier, longtime NFL sports handicapper, where we have embarked on something that I don't think anybody's ever done before, and that is tracking an entire NFL season with an experienced, long-time, big dollar NFL handicapper and tracking how he does throughout the season. And so we're going to see how he did in week 2. And we're going to tell you guys how to get involved and how to get his picks for week 3. I have a feeling you're going to be interested in that because we are happy to report that so far this year, Richard continues at his 67% clip. He hit 2 out of 3 this past weekend, and we're now 4 out of 6. I did notice that Richard looked about 2 years older when he first logged on because it was another stressful weekend for him. But that's what the fun of this show is, because you get to see behind the scenes of what these handicappers go through and what a typical weekend is for them. And I'm learning more and more. It's a pretty damn stressful business, but he's here and he's proud to boast another 2 out of 3 performance this past weekend. Good to see you again, Richard.
Thank you, Jim. Nice to see you.
So we've got some fun stories to talk about from this past weekend, and let's start with what happened last night. So, as Richard has told our viewers before, that most people like to bet the Monday night football game, and Rich only recommends it if he's got a strong play on it. So as much as I hound him, sometimes I'm like, Rich, give me a play for tonight. I want to watch the game. He's like, Jim, I can't give you a side because, I'm not leaning in any direction. The algorithms aren't lining up. But this weekend, they did line up. And when Rich gave out his picks on Friday, one of them included the Monday night game, which is great. And it was the Atlanta-Philly game that hopefully people saw last night. Pretty exciting game. I'm out traveling right now, so I'm in D.C. I got to watch it at a D.C. cigar bar. And we're going to cover all 3 of the games. But Rich was going into the Monday night game. He was 1-1 so far. So this is a critical game. It's the difference between him going 2 out of 3 versus 1 out of 3. And he's taken the Atlanta Falcons, who were coming off a very poor performance against his Pittsburgh Steelers, only put 10 points on the board. And I think that game was at home, right? Atlanta had played their first game at home against Pittsburgh.
Correct.
And Kirk Cousins is their new quarterback. They brought him over in free agency from Minnesota and gave him a pretty big deal, right?
$100 million.
Yeah. So, Cousins, he's been a very strong quarterback. I've always liked him, but, he's getting up there in years, isn't he? Is he like 30 years old at this point?
Yeah, 30 plus, and coming off a major injury too. He got hurt last year in Minnesota towards Achilles, so it was a big risk for Atlanta to give this guy $40 million a year, $100 million guaranteed. So.
Yeah, more and more you're seeing these guaranteed contracts, which really wasn't part of the NFL for a long period of time. And now these huge guaranteed contracts are there. I mean, in football, players are so susceptible to injury that typically the contracts weren't guaranteed for that reason. And I'm not sure exactly when the split was, but all of a sudden it seems to me in the past 5 years, you're seeing all these guaranteed contracts.
Yeah, and it concerns me a little bit. You think of the past stars of the NFL, like your Tom Brady's and everything, and you really didn't see these types of numbers on contracts. But you wonder about, quarterbacks are getting now, wide receivers are getting these contracts. How much of the cap is this eating up, and how is this affecting a team's depth?
Yeah. I think somehow the guarantee gets around the the upfront money gets around the cap. I'm not sure exactly how it works, but we're seeing some big deals possibly imploding. I think didn't Tua in Miami get a big one, and Now he's had a
Yeah,
concussion, and people talking about whether or not he can even continue to play.
right.
So we've got Atlanta coming off a very poor offensive performance, only 10 points in their home opener against the lowly Pittsburgh Steelers. Then they got to go on the road to Philly. Philly, it's a Monday night game. Philly has been, a very strong team in the last a number of years, obviously. The fans are all jacked up. They're coming off of a win overseas against Green Bay, right? Did they play in Brazil?
Yes, Friday night. Yeah, that first week,
Yeah.
Friday night, they were in Sao Paulo, Brazil.
Right. So that concerned me a little bit about Philly, that they're traveling back from Brazil, but they had a couple extra days, 3 extra days actually, to prepare for the game. And Philly opened up as a 6.5 point favorite in the game. And you picked Atlanta plus 6.5, and you released that pick on Friday. But
Yes.
by the time there was kickoff, the line was down to 5.5. So I presume that a lot of people were in fact betting Atlanta along with you.
Yeah, I don't know if everybody's just hopping on my bandwagon or not. Uh, I did see a little change in the money because the money was so lopsided coming into to yesterday, Monday night. It was like 87-13 in favor of the Eagles, and it finished about 70-30
Uh-huh.
in favor of the Eagles.
Well, we're going to talk more about that because there were some weird line movements in some of the other games. But why would if the money was so lopsided on Philly, how come the line moved down from 6.5 to 5.5?
Well, like I said, the money went from 87% Philly to 70% Philly. So obviously some late money came in on Atlanta. Again, whose money it is, whether it's smart money, dumb money, I don't know. But
Okay.
yeah, the books felt the need to drop the line a little bit. Not that I don't think that they wanted to attract really any more Philly money, but they didn't want any more Falcon money. So I don't
So,
know.
so
It's it used to be a lot
it's very
easier
important.
for. I was just going to say it was a lot easier for me to figure out what was going on when Vegas was the only place that this was taking place. This was basically the only legal market for this. And now that it's all over the United States and international now, why some of these lines move and why some lines move in the opposite direction, it's really hard for me to track now.
Yeah,
So
I mean, now you've got.
I don't worry about that as much. I keep an eye on it, but it's not a determining factor as to why I'm on a game or why I'm not on a game.
So the line moved from 6.5 to 5.5, and I'm looking at the game and thinking Philly at home on a Monday night against a very questionable Atlanta team with a new quarterback who didn't perform well in week one. You were 1-1 coming into that game. And I reached out to you that day and said, Rich, are you sure that you're betting against Philly at home on Monday night? And your response was, well, you never know until the game is played. And my response was, is that all you're going to give me, Rich? Can you give me any little extra comfort here just to make me feel better about making this play? And your response was pretty funny because it sounded like a lot of your bettors were asking the same question that I was asking. And what I think a lot of people aren't aware of, that Rich provides his picks to a number of large whale players in Vegas. And Rich only gets paid if they win. So his model with them is They got to give him 10% of their winnings. But if Rich doesn't win, Rich doesn't get paid. And if Rich has a bad weekend, he needs to do even better the following weekend to make up for the prior weekend. So
Just to correct you,
not
it's
easy to get
20%.
20%. Oh, okay. You told me that some of the guys are only paying 10 though.
Well, I mean, I do some introductory offers sometimes if they're a big enough player, but
I was just trying to get you in trouble with the guys that are paying 20. That's all. I'm just
yeah,
screwing with
that's
you.
what I need. Thank you.
Um, so anyway, but tell us what was going on yesterday as these guys are getting nervous about what appears to be a bizarre pick to pick Atlanta on the road on Monday night. What kind of pressure were they giving you?
Well, first off, I have a talk with my cash clients before the season, and I lay this out for them, and some of them have worked with me for years, and I say, look, you tell me what number you're comfortable betting with. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to be partners. You being 80%, me being 20%. When I give you this game, I'm going to give it to you when I think that the number is good enough to bet. And what's so frustrating to me is that I had so many of these people calling me yesterday, Monday, including you, questioning, should I bet this or not? Well, now the line's down a point. Philly's very strong at home. Look, I gave this play out on Friday. So that means that I expect you to go out Friday, get that best number you can get on the game, and bet it. I don't expect to be having this conversation with people on Monday of the day of the game. So that part of it's really frustrating for me.
Well, it's human emotion. So,
And not to mention now I have people out there sitting at a point less than they should have been. They could have grabbed 6.5 on Friday.
well, which almost became very relevant. So,
Yeah, yes, it did. The field goal put it at 6, which made all the people that were sitting on 5.5 losers.
yeah.
But again, let me make something perfectly clear. I am not a football expert. I'm lucky I can name 5 starters on any team in the NFL. I am a degreed economist, and all I'm doing is looking at a group of numbers, and when my sample size is large enough, I am taking the odds on when numbers are due to correct. They're only going to stray so far from the mean. So I'm not looking at player personnel. I'm not looking at how many projected fantasy points say Saquon Barkley's supposed to have tonight, or whatever other metrics you want to measure this game by. I pick my games. I'm done with it. That's it. Let's just watch and get the outcome.
So, Rich, I did something yesterday that I'm ashamed of, and I promise I will never do it again. I learned my lesson. I took Philly.
That's it. Camera off. Close. Cut.
Let this be a lesson to all of the handicap hustle fans out there and the phrase wins fans out there. Have faith, because I learned my lesson. I just couldn't go with Atlanta, which normally would just mean I just went and bet the game, but I was going to be watching the game, and I need to have money on it if I'm going to be watching the game. I knew I was going to be a cigar lounge here in DC, and they're going to have the game on. So I took Philly. Now they were minus 5.5, and I bought it down to 3. And I figured, okay, 3 should be a very safe number. So I had to bet like 168 to 100 on Philly minus 3. And I thought, that actually creates a nice little middle where both Rich and I can win. I'm rooting to win my bet, but he can also win his bet if the score lands just where it needs to go. And that essentially almost happened. So Philly's got the ball. They're up by 3. They're either going to make a first down. They're down at like the 10-yard line, right? And it's third and 5 at the 10, something like that. if they make the first down, they can take a knee and the game is over. They win by 3. I get a push. Rich is happy because they cover 6 number. If they go into the end zone, I'm good. I win, but then I would have felt bad for Rich because that would have screwed him because Philly would have went up by 10. Or if they don't make the first down, they're going to kick a field goal, which means that I win and Rich is essentially a push. I guess you would say you won because when you first gave out the pick, it was plus 6.5, right? So if people
Yeah,
bet it,
unfortunately, my clients measure it by their own pocket. Even though I tell them bet it at 6.5, and they wait till Monday and bet it at 5.5, that caused an issue between me and them. Even though, well, they said, well, I didn't win, so your 20% is null and void. So it's something that I'll have to
which
accept.
you're a good. I know you're a good guy, a trustworthy guy. So I'm sure that you take the good with the bad, and if they ended up getting it 5.5 and didn't win, you're not expecting to get paid.
No, no, I'm not.
Right. Instead, you're giving them shit though and saying, okay, guys, next time when I give you the pick, put it in. There's a good chance the line is going to move against us. So Philly throws a little screen pass. All the guys got to do is catch it and drop down for the first down, and the game is over. Rich wins and I push, which I would have been totally fine with that. Instead, he drops the ball. They kick the field goal to go up by 6. Still a minute and a half to go. I was a little nervous. I had a feeling like, Atlanta's going to have a shot. No timeout.
Zero
They need to march
timeout.
no timeouts. They got to march all the way down the field. So it's highly unlikely, but I wasn't going to stop watching. I've seen this too many times, especially when I got money on it. And sure enough, within 3 plays, they're at the 13-yard line with plenty of time left. A few plays later, they're in the end zone, and I become a loser on my Philly -3 bet, and Rich is popping champagne corks because all of his players except for me went 2 out of 3. So as I said, I hang my head in shame, and I will never do it again, Rich.
Well, I mean, I'll forgive you because you do such a great job hosting the show with me.
So all right, so that was an amazing game, but a fun game, and that's why sports betting is as fun as it is. I got to be honest, as I told Rich before, I'm a very casual better. I really just like to bet on the games if I'm going to be watching them, and there's many times when I've said, you know what, I lost that bet, but I got the entertainment that I paid for. I'm paying for the excitement of watching a game and rooting for a particular team, but knowing I've got a little small stake in it. And if I end up losing, but it was an entertaining loss, for me, that's a win. And, I think that's a healthy way to look at sports betting if you're a casual player like me, because casual players, almost historically lose. People who play with Rich, these aren't casual players. These are players that are playing, looking for an edge, who intend to win. And Rich has been able to be successful many, many years in a row in making these guys money.
Yeah, I
Right?
mean, it does. I try to tell people it's so easy to look at these games, and I tell people up front, I'm going to have a lot of ugly looking games. That's just the fact of the matter, and a lot of people are just uncomfortable with ugly games. But that's why I asked for this commitment.
Well, that's a good
Obviously,
segue into the Carolina game. Speaking of ugly games, because you took Carolina at home against the Chargers. Chargers have Jim Harbaugh. Who's got it better than us? Nobody. A guy who had a lot of success in San Francisco, then wins a national championship in Michigan. Clearly, this guy's got something. He's bringing new energy and new blood to this LA Charger team that they probably never really experienced before. They had a good win in week 1 against the Raiders. Now they're playing a Carolina team that I think had scored like a grand total of 3 points in their last 3 games, something like that. I mean, really, really, really a miserable team. But the analytics lined up to take Carolina. And, like you said, you don't follow the players or the coaches that much. You follow the analytics, and the analytics pointed to betting Carolina. But I was going to send you a text after that game, but I know not to mess with you on Sundays. You're too stressed. But just basically to say that all the analytics in the world doesn't make for an absolutely overcome a really shitty team. And Carolina is an absolutely shitty team right now. Your only 2 losses this season have both been on Carolina. So walk us through a little bit the analytics that show betting Carolina on that. And if the analytics show you once again, this upcoming week, Rich, to bet Carolina, are you going to have the onions to give out Carolina as a pick again?
I may take Carolina all 17 weeks that they play a game. However the numbers come out, they come out, and this isn't the first time this has happened. When I first started in this business, if you remember when Drew Bledsoe was the quarterback of the New England Patriots, and Drew Bledsoe had a pretty decent career, and he was coming down towards the end, but for whatever the reason, the Patriots kept coming up as a play for me, and I was giving this out to my guys, and I'm not even going to mention the type of money that was going down on these games. And they're like, "My God, you got this god awful New England team again. Bledsoe can't throw." But nonetheless, they kept coming up. But again, eventually they made a change at quarterback. They brought in Brady to replace Bledsoe, and look what happened after that. But they continued to come up on the radar, and we eventually made a lot of money back with that same team. Carolina is no different. Carolina could go, 1-16 during the regular season this year, but I guarantee you their point spread record will be much better than that. So I have no problem. To me, I'm not picking this horrible Carolina Panther team. They're just X's and O's or XYZ's, letters, numbers, whatever you want to call them to me. If they come up, they come up, and it's a play.
Okay, but let me. Obviously, the public perception of Carolina right now is that they suck. And so far, they do really suck. Now, they're making a quarterback change, and trying to remember. You know who they're going with?
Sam Darnold.
Sam Darnold?
Yes.
So they're making a change. So who knows? Because this Bryce Young definitely is just not looking like he's ready for prime time. So, maybe that's going to make a change. But clearly, public perception is at an all-time low for the Carolina Panthers, but rightly so. So it wouldn't surprise me if that line comes out, higher than you would expect based on your algorithms, because the public is viewing this team as being really shitty. So
that's what happens is if the same result keeps occurring, then they have to keep adjusting the number to try to get money on both sides of this game. And Carolina has not played a competitive game yet. They've looked horrible. So
but I guess what you're saying, and this, I think it's interesting for people to see your methodology and in the behind the scenes on it. If I were you, even if the algorithms were looking good for Carolina, I might say, you know what? I'm going to sit Carolina out until I see a halfway decent game from them, and then I'll be comfortable putting them back in my rotation. But right now, I'm 0-2 in Carolina so far, and until I see them play a competitive game, they're out.
Well, keep in mind that my decision is not only based on that one team. Now, obviously, Carolina is due for a correction, but they have to have an opponent that's due for a reverse correction. So, without getting into the specifics of this week's games, I will say that I need that combination of factors to make it work. And then once there is a correction and Carolina does cover a game, that may, throw me in, off that team for a while until they fall back in line again to where they're due for a correction. Because if
All right.
Carolina
Well,
does beat somebody, it's going to alter their numbers drastically.
all right. Well, just understand this is coming from a guy who I was living in Tampa, Florida for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers inaugural season. And they went 0-14. So it's now maybe they covered the spread a few times. I don't know how many times they covered the spread, but I'll never forget my dad bought us season tickets for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they were 0-14 in year one. I think they were 2-12 in year two. And then, believe it or not, they made it to the conference championship in year three. I don't know if you remember that, but it was it John Robinson? Was that the old USC coach?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, he was the head coach for them. But yeah,
Well, I,
oh,
I was in I was in Tampa at the same time. Back when look at they had Doug Williams as quarterback, Super Bowl winning quarterback. Steve Young, Super Bowl winning quarterback. Trent Dilfer, Super Bowl winning quarterback. Vinny Testaverde, great quarterback. The the
and now
call the, the,
and now
the
and
call,
now Baker Mayfield, who pulled off a nice upset at Detroit.
Yeah, Baker's a gamer. He gives it his all. I like his game. I like his style.
Okay, so your last pick of the weekend, which is another winner. By the way, it's funny that this weekend went similar to your prior weekend, where you lost game one in the morning and then had to come back with two wins. So that makes things a little extra stressful. You might want to make it a little easier on yourself this weekend and have one of your winners be an early game.
I actually had a client send me a long text asking me if I could please win the AM game so he didn't have to sweat so much in the PM. And I'm like,
Exactly.
well, nobody's ever happy. You never get the reward you deserve when you win, but boy, they're the first to criticize when you lose. But it comes with the
Yeah.
territory.
So there's only one out of the three picks of yours that I liked. And as I've told you before, I'm the dumb public. So what do I know? I definitely only know enough to be dangerous and bet with the dumb public. But I didn't like the Carolina play at all. I turned out to be right about that. I didn't like your Atlanta play at all. I was dead wrong about that. Your Cincinnati play, however, I loved, and I'll kind of explain why. Cincinnati was coming off of a kind of an embarrassing opening day loss. Didn't they kind of lose pretty badly or lost to a poor team?
Yes.
And then Kansas City was coming off a very emotional game. They're celebrating their Super Bowl championship. They've got all the distractions of the Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift and et cetera. And people thought that they might be too distracted to win their opening game, but they won it over what's a strong Baltimore team, even though Baltimore is 0-2, much to the chagrin of producer Todd. But we know Baltimore is still going to be a strong team. So they're coming off an emotional win. Cincinnati's coming off a frustrating loss, and I love betting the team that's coming off of a tough loss, and they're going to have a good week of practice to make up for it against the team that's off an emotional win. And Cincinnati was getting like 6.5 points at Kansas City. I think I bought that up to 7. So I'm getting 7 points. And, those two teams have played some incredible games in recent years, Burrows versus Mahomes. So I saw that being a one-score game, and I love that pick. Cincinnati almost won it outright, but that one was kind of looking pretty good from the start for you.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I think they should have won the game out. I'm not a conspiracy theorist guy, but man, it seems like Kansas City gets a lot of breaks in these games.
Yeah, that
They're
seems
the,
to be the
they're the
public
darlings of the
perception.
NFL, and it shows on the field. I mean, they get the breaks, they get the calls.
Well, but first they had, so they're on the final drive. and they just needed a field goal to win. I think they were down by a couple points. But there was a hands to the face penalty, I think, against Kansas City that took away a first down. So that went against them. So now they're facing like what, 4th and 16 from their own 35. All Cincinnati has to do is stop them on 4th and 16. I forget who the announcers were. I think Romo may have been the commentator on that, but just talking about how many times he's seen Mahomes get out of 4th and long situations with the game on the line. And sure enough, he heaves up a pass and there's pass interference and they go on to win the game with a Butker field goal.
Which I thought was a very questionable pass interference. The defender was facing the play. Him and the offensive wide receiver both jumped up to catch the ball, but yet somehow it was pass interference. So,
yeah. Well, I was thinking about that too, because there's the whole going for the ball thing. And arguably he was simply going for the ball, but I'm not sure you're allowed to totally run over the receiver in going for the ball. I mean, without question, it was early contact and obviously a catchable ball. So I don't know. I saw that as a proper call, actually. But regardless,
well,
it didn't matter for the spread.
yeah, it didn't matter for the spread, but and maybe that I'll make it 50-50 at best, but I've just seen this happen so many times with Kansas City. And especially Kansas City versus Cincinnati. If we go back 2 years ago to the AFC Championship game.
So the last time I'll bring it up on this show, I promise, because it's just my little pet peeve. Maybe you tracked it a little bit more, but I still like to get pissed off at the stupid new kickoff that they have, which by the way, if you're going to do an onside kick now, you got to tell everybody in advance to do the hokey onside kick. Players all have to line up in a different spot than if you're doing a regular kick. But it seems to me that most of the teams are calculating that kicking it into the end zone is the best thing to do, because the times when I do see run backs, these guys are easily getting it to like the 30-yard line or beyond on a return. And so that's why everybody's just kicking it into the end zone. Is that what you've noticed?
I have noticed that. It's not what I noticed when I first started seeing this in the preseason, but it has been what I noticed in the regular season, that teams would rather just give them the extra 5 yards, kick it into the end zone, because nobody's going to return it from the end zone now. I mean, they're just going to take a knee because 30-yard line is decent field position.
Well, and
But
that's kind of one of my complaints about it is, it used to be we always started from the 20. Then they moved it to the 25, 10 years ago, whenever it was. Now it's essentially been moved to the 30. I mean, these guys, in the way they're kicking field goals these days, these guys are banging them in easily from 55 plus. So you're basically, one or two completions away from being in field goal range all of a sudden. I mean, we saw that in the game last night where, Atlanta got the ball at the 30, couple passes, boom, they're throwing for the end zone. And again, it just astounds me that the NFL would implement such a drastic change to the traditional kickoff without having even tested the thing out. And now, it was all intended to create more run backs, and instead it's actually created fewer. And it was implemented without even trying it. Somebody had the brain fart of the idea and like, oh, that sounds good. Let's try it out. Come on, you're the NFL. Let's have some more consistency to things than that.
yeah, they wanted more run backs with less chance of injury, and that's not what they're getting. So
Yeah. It's now become, it was boring before and they just made it even more boring. All right. Well, it wasn't a boring weekend for you, Rich. I do congratulate you on another 2 out of 3. So let's talk about how people can get your picks for this upcoming week. Handicap Hustle is on Substack. And if you go to Handicap Hustle on Substack, you can subscribe. You can subscribe for free, and he'll give you some basic information. But for the actual picks, you'll see the price on there. I think he's charging about $79 a month. That's for people that just want to pay a very, very small amount. Comes out to about $20 per weekend, and you'd be 4 out of 6 right now. If you want to be one of Rich's big time customers, where you only pay if you win, I imagine they can just go to your website for that.
Yeah, add Frazier Wins on any social media platform. Reach out.
And as always, you're going to get it straight from us. You can see those picks. They're released on Substack. So there's not many handicappers that are willing to do this, to come on and face the music as to how their prior weekend was. There's a lot of gimmicks going on out there when it comes to sports handicappers. We talked about it last week. I think that 95% of them is the marketing, where they say that, oh, I was 3 out of 4 on my strong buys, but they ignore that they were 0 for 3 on their guaranteed locks. So there's a lot of games being played out there. But Rich is the real deal. He's got a bunch of whales in Vegas that rely on him every year, been successful every year, and he's off to a good start this year. And, a 67% clip is not something that I imagine you think you're going to be able to keep going through the whole season, but you don't even need to. I mean, you really just need to win at about a 55% clip to have a great year?
Well, my expectation is to win 2 out of 3 games every week. Obviously, it's not going to play out that way, but I will say that I've had plenty of seasons that I was over 70%, and I've had some that I was down closer to 63, 62%. But as a basis long term, I use the 65% rule. But yeah, 2-1 every week takes me a little higher than that. So.
All right. Well, you owe me one extra pick for this week, since I didn't take your Atlanta pick. Could you give me just an extra winner this next week to make up for it?
Well, we'll have to talk privately about that.
I swear I'll never do it again. I'll never do it again. I'm not betting against Handicap Hustle's phrase wins. So check the link. I think there's a link if you're watching this on YouTube or wherever you're viewing this. Check for a link to the Substack. If you don't see it, just go ahead and go to Substack. Handicap Hustle if you want Rich's picks for this upcoming weekend, and every week we'll go over them and see how he did. So we'll be back a week from now to go over week 3 of the NFL. Thank you all for watching and listening to Handicap Hustle on Crosscheck Media. Take care, everyone.
Hi everyone, I'm Veronica Dudo, and welcome to Buy,
Hold, Sell. If you have the Russians that are going into Ukraine, the Americans and the Germans and everyone else in Europe is going to say, hell no.
If Russia doing things, logically was their MO, I'd agree with you. Yeah, Todd, why don't you get him on a phone call right now? Hello, you.